You are listening to the Critical Mass Radio Show, Orange County's business talk show, focused on exploring topics of interest to CEOs who are leading middle market companies. With your host, Richard Franzi.
Hello and welcome to Orange County's longest running business talk show. I am your host, Rick Franzi, and we have a very good special edition of our show. You know, periodically we focus on worthy Orange County nonprofit organizations, and we've invited Meymuna Hussein-Cattan, who is the executive director and founder of the Tiyya Foundation, to be our guest today. So, Meymuna, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Let's talk a little bit about you and your path to your organization. What was your original motivation to create this organization?
Yes. So our mission at the Tiyya Foundation is to support refugees, immigrants, and displaced indigenous communities. And this work is passionate to me because I was born on a refugee camp. In the mid-70s, my parents had fled Ethiopia and they met on a refugee camp in Somalia. That's where they got married. I was born there. And I grew up mainly in Orange County after our resettlement process. And it's my way of just giving back to the population.
How old were you when your family moved to Orange County?
So my dad was resettled first in 1983, and it took a year for us to reunite with him. So by the time we came to the States, my mother and I was 3.5 years old.
Do you have any memory of what it was like before you came to Orange County?
No, actually, at that age, my memories are from photos and storytelling of their experiences on the camp. But I firsthand witnessed their transition process in the United States. And like many immigrant youth, I was the one at home helping my mother learn English at the age of 7.
Wow. So what was the motivation then for you to take your time and talents and energy and create the Tiyya Foundation?
It was pretty organic. I would say around 1998, 1999, there were East Africans that were being resettled in the Orange County area. And my mother had stepped in as a volunteer. So she was volunteering her services with translation or providing basic necessities. And it wasn't until my time in grad school where I helped her formalize the organization, formalize her volunteer efforts into an organization that we named the Tiyya Foundation. Tiyya means my love in Afar Oromo. And that's a language I grew up with. And I would say 2 years after we established the org, it triggered her PTSD. So she had stepped away, and then I stepped up and took over as the executive director.
So we'll talk more about your organization, but I'm just curious, growing up in Orange County at a young age, did you recognize your situation was different than maybe your friends and peer group, or was that realization later in life?
You know, I was really lucky because in Orange County, there were previous refugee communities. So a lot of my friends in the neighborhood were from Vietnam. And there were stories that the parents would exchange. So I think it just helped me understand that even though people don't look like me, they had very similar stories. So I think that was my introduction to cross-cultural relationships.
Is that, so let me follow up with that. Is the story common regardless of the country that people have come to the U.S., to Orange County from? Is that a common bonding experience then? That it sounds like it was, for at least for you and your family.
Yeah, I wouldn't say bonding necessarily, but
okay.
Yeah, there's a sense of I guess like allyship or understanding one another. There's this deep rooted emotion, that happens. And I've witnessed it in my parents where a place that you called home isn't necessarily a place you want to flee, right? So it wasn't like you left with a plan or a purpose in mind. It was survival. And I think what a lot of refugee parents have in common is there's this desire to eventually go back home. There's this romanticizing of the home country, that when things get better, they're going to buy land and live there. So it isn't quite like me right now. Yes, I come back from a refugee background, but my parents fled. I was born on the camp, but I think it would be different for me if I wanted to, let's say, move to France, right? I would have a plan. There's a desire, and maybe go visit, find employment, what have you, right? But if anything were to happen in California, and then I just flee, there's this feeling of waiting to come back home.
So you grew up seeing how refugees, the challenges of becoming a part of the new environment, culture, country that they're living in, and now you're helping very specifically people to do that. What are some of the barriers or challenges that refugees are facing as they relocate, I guess specifically here to Orange County, but also other places where you're helping people find homes?
Yeah, I think there's cultural nuances that you don't know about until you come to a new country. An example here in the US is we tell people work hard, go to school, have a great resume, but we forget to tell them the importance and the value of networking and building relationships and having friends before there's an emergency. So those little nuances are the things that we make sure to cultivate in the community that we're serving, and let them know, yes, you could send off all the resumes you want, but we're here to help you kind of alleviate some barriers with the networking process. And part of networking, actually, right, is having to know the language, understanding, probably like neighborhood orientation, having resources to, go outside and buy dinner or buy coffee for a friend. So these are little things that we prepare them for.
So let's talk specifically about what your foundation is doing for refugees who are relocating here to Orange County. Can you describe the services that you offer and how you help them?
Yes. So we have a team. I'm an executive director. My husband Shukri is the director of operations. And we have Mira, who's in charge of career placement. So as I mentioned, we help break those barriers to find jobs. So her role is to make sure that refugees, particularly women, are able to acquire entry-level positions. And then we have Mahmoud, who is our case manager. He was a former client and a refugee from Afghanistan. He had FIV status, that's a special immigration visa, and he was able to translate for the US government. And we're really lucky to have him on the team because he speaks about 5 languages and is able to help families from that region. And then we have Ines, who by trade, her background, she's a dentist, but she was also a refugee from Iraq. So she has stepped in to provide event coordinating for the families that we work with. So they have gatherings once a month. So if anyone's interested in volunteering, we usually introduce them to our family gathering component. We call it Tea and Tots, where we encourage donors and volunteers in the community to bring diapers, and we have play dates at the park with the moms and the new families.
So let's talk a little bit about where the refugees are coming from currently. Where are you seeing in the world that people are fleeing and ending here in Orange County that you're able to help?
Yes. So a lot of the families that we work with right now are from the Middle East. Majority are from Afghanistan. And I also want to preface that I've been doing the work since 2010. So every 2 years, you see an influx of a new crisis. So it changes the demographic of families we're working with. So prior to the Afghan crisis, we were working with families from, let's say, Haiti or Syria or Somalia, whatever you see on the news. we're helping the families after it's not hot news anymore. So so last summer was a lot of our attention went to what was going on in Afghanistan. These are the families that are now resettling in Orange County, living out of motels and trying to find housing and get their bearings. And I would say about 6 months from now, we're going to see an influx of families from Ukraine. But overall, the Tiyya Foundation works with about 190 families from 24 different countries.
Are they mostly families then? Is that because that's who you're focused on helping, or is that because that makes up the refugee population?
That's the majority. Majority of displaced people, I would say 50% are children and mothers, so the majority is women and children. But there are times where we'll come across single individuals, maybe from Venezuela or, parts of Central or West Africa. So that does happen. But overall, families are fleeing together, grabbing their kids. And if they have to allow the kids to go first for their safety, I know I would do that if I had to run to the border and I knew my daughter is going to be safer than I am. I'm going to let her go. That does happen. So we'll have unaccompanied minors, but they're introduced to the Tiyya Foundation maybe after they reunite with a family member or after they turn 18.
So how do you meet the families that are in need that you can help?
We are word of mouth. We're really culturally aware of the importance of trust. So a lot of the resettlement agencies build relationships with apartment owners or apartment managers, for example, because there's no background check, right, when a refugee is being resettled. So through the resettlement agency that's government funded, they help set up the refugee family. A lot of them live in the same neighborhoods. So if we're doing a good job with our services and making sure, the kids have good programming, the mothers feel supported, both parents, maybe one or two, are now employed, they're going to refer us to their neighbors. And that's what we've been seeing. A lot of refugee populations in Orange County, they reside in, I would say, Anaheim, Garden Grove, Westminster, parts of Irvine. That happens if they're able to get Section 8 housing, which takes a process. There's a wait list.
So I've always marveled people from different countries and the ability to speak different languages. You mentioned that one of the people working in your organization can speak, I think you said 5 languages. And as U.S. born and citizens, we tend to speak English. Very rarely can we speak other languages. So it must be challenging for refugees when they come to this country if they don't have strong English background. Then I would think that's a big adjustment that's required on their part.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say that's any new country that you find yourself in. Language is key. It really helps you build relationships and navigate the system. So we're there to help them with ESL. We have interns and volunteers that provide one-on-one tutoring. During the pandemic, a lot of it has been virtual, but not everyone has internet access. So we're working around it to make sure that the parents feel supported. We also have an activity. It's called Coffee and Conversation, where we invite the refugee moms to come together and practice English as a group.
So I was going to ask you about the impact on your organization from COVID-19. What have you had to adjust, and what's been the new reality for you?
Yeah, I think something we understood before the pandemic was access to technology, but during the pandemic that was really heightened. So we were able to maybe collect laptops, but not everyone we give laptops to have internet. or, maybe they prefer on their phone, using apps and like WhatsApp, for example. So yeah, there was just an adjustment of like what form of communication do they prefer, and maybe introducing them to different platforms like Zoom, for example, or Google Meets. So that's been interesting. A lot of the relationship building that we've been doing over the years has been face to face. So I think that really woke us up. And refugees, there were different requirements for receiving aid from the government. And a lot of the families that we were supporting didn't qualify. So the Tiyya Foundation stepped in, and we don't normally do this, but during the pandemic, we were giving financial assistance to families that were having problems with, covering their rent or covering their utility bills. Like, we were there to support them with that. We raised close to $100,000 and helped over 70 families with financial assistance. We also, during the pandemic, the same week as the stay-at-home orders is when we launched our social enterprise. Really interesting, as we have a restaurant now in Little Ethiopia, and it's called Flavors from Afar, where we employ refugee parents and highlight their menu and cuisine once a month. So that was really interesting. We were preparing for experiential dining, and opened the same week as the stay-at-home orders as takeout. And I would say, because of the restrictions in LA County in particular, we didn't have indoor dining until maybe 6 months ago. So that was a big adjustment.
Yes. So I know that you have a fundraising event coming up on April 16th.
Yes.
And I wonder if you might share a little bit about what's going to be happening and who might go and how the money, what are you going to do with the money that you'll raise there? So
yes, exactly. So we have a fundraiser. It's held on Saturday, April 16th. It's hosted by our board member, Mukta Mohan. It'll be at a private garden in Pasadena. So anyone who is interested in supporting us, you could email me directly. My email address is meymuna@tiyya.org, or you can find me on LinkedIn at Meymuna Hussein-Cattan, so I can provide more information for you. We are fundraising right now to hire a housing specialist. The idea is to, help families identify, apartments and housing quicker, so we don't repeat or see what happened again with the Afghan families who are now currently living out of motels throughout LA, Orange County, Riverside County. I mean, it's just San Bernardino County. It's really sad to witness what's going on. So we want to help be part of the solution. And the idea is, it would be a perfect rehabilitation process if we could help a refugee family find housing. We have our case manager that checks in on them. We have our career placement specialist that helps them find employment. And then there is this network and community building portion where they don't feel isolated. So I think once we're able to acquire the funding for a housing specialist, I think our programs are pretty solid. They already are, I would say, solid, but housing is something that has to be addressed.
do you have a sense for how many families you've been able to help over the years?
Oh, I would say we have about 2,000 families in our network since 2010.
2000. And do you develop long-term, you talked about trust earlier, and I think that's really a powerful concept. And once you help the refugees' families, do they sort of stay connected to the Tiyya Foundation then?
Yeah, they do actually. I've noticed a lot of the families that we worked with that I guess, you'd say graduated and have moved on, have become donors in different capacities, or they've joined our board, or, we've worked together on developing like their business endeavors. For example, we have a woman we worked with since 2011. She's a single mom from Somalia with 6 children. Her name's Malia. And she was part of our culinary program and was there when we launched Flavors from Afar's restaurant. And now we helped her open up her own restaurant in Minnesota. So these are great things to witness and being part of people's success journeys.
So tell us again, if someone would like to become involved and support your foundation, how would they do that?
Yes, you can visit our website, tiyya.org, TIYYA.org, to learn more. And if you scroll down to the very bottom of the website, there's ways that you could give back, because there's many ways to partner with us. And one of the options is to volunteer. So we are looking for volunteers and interns right now. There is a high influx of refugees, and we're going to see more. When I started the work, 2010, there was less than 40 million people displaced, and now we have over 85 million people that are displaced. So I think it's just going to continue to grow, especially when you factor in things like climate change. So it would be nice for a community of support within Orange County and LA to make sure that programming is available. Community members are there to show that, you know, they care and they're welcoming of our new neighbors. Or if you don't have the time to volunteer, just stop by the restaurant and, you know, or hire us for catering. All the money goes back to supporting programming.
And where is Flavors from Afar located?
Yes, we're at 1046 South Fairfax in Los Angeles, and our catering radius is from LA to San Clemente.
Oh, perfect. So people here in Orange County, definitely. That sounds like a great idea. So I want to thank you for giving of your time, Meymuna, and being a friend and a part of the Orange County community and helping so many people with the kind of fine work that your foundation is doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And please, again, keep us in mind as you see an influx of Ukrainian refugees that'll be here in the next 5 to 6 months. We would love to be prepared. Thank you.
And you've been listening to Orange County's longest running business talk show. Meymuna's episode was episode number 1355. If you're an Orange County nonprofit and you would like to tell your story here on our show, then connect with us. I'm Rick Franzi. That's also my website, rickfranzi.com. Reach out to us, and Haley, our producer, will help to schedule you as we've done with Meymuna. And until the next time we all have a chance to be together, I hope all of your decisions will move your organization in a positive direction.